Hello again. Chris Lee and Chase Robinson here to preview and predict an outcome on Tennessee and Ohio State in the first round of the college football playoff. It's in Columbus, Ohio, Saturday, December 21st, 7 Central. You can catch that on ABC and ESPN. Our friends at BetOnline, as of Monday morning, the day after the playoffs are released, favor Ohio State by about 7.5 with an over-under of 47. My computer model's got Ohio State by around 7. A lot at stake for both these teams in the first iteration of this college football playoff. Chase, let's go right into it. Tennessee's offense versus Ohio State's defense. I'll give you the numbers for Tennessee, followed by the numbers for Ohio State. Scoring 37.3 points versus 10.9 per Ohio State's defense. Rushing plays. Sacks do not count as rushing plays. They go on the passing total. 5.6 yards per rushing play, which is elite, which is what happens when you have Dylan Sampson. 3.7 for Ohio State's defense. 7.2 per passing play versus 4.5 for Ohio State. Sack percentages. Tennessee gives up sacks 7% of the time. That's a little bit high. Ohio State gets them 10.5% of the time. That's pretty elite. And turnovers. Tennessee turns it over about 1.7% of the time versus Ohio State forcing turnovers 2.3% of the time. Chase Robinson, what stands out to you here?
Well, look, Tennessee, we've been keeping an eye on these guys all season, and analyzing their preparation for games, reacting to their games, and the one name that comes up for Tennessee offensively every week when we talk is Dylan Sampson, one of the two SEC running backs to go over 1,000 yards this year, and he's been incredible, and he's been so consistent running the football this year. They've been able to rely on him every game, win or loss. No matter what's going on, Dylan Sampson has not been stopped. The teams have slowed him down a bit, but he hasn't been stopped, and I don't expect him to anytime soon. And I feel like what Tennessee does so good offensively is Josh Heupel's such a great offensive coach. They use Dylan Sampson, they use the run, they set up the pass. They're able to do both things, and running the ball is definitely the most consistent thing Tennessee does offensively. But I feel like Nico Iamaleava is starting to play like we thought he would. He's playing a little more consistent. He's not turning the ball over. He's finding some of these receivers, and so I think, look, if Dylan Sampson can get loose, if Nico can play within himself, be consistent, not make bad decisions, I feel like this Tennessee offense might be clicking on all cylinders when they roll up into Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, we did a video last week about why Tennessee could be problematic in the playoff. Two things were on the offense. One was that Dylan Sampson has been so consistent. In his 9 games against Power 5 teams, he ran for over 100 yards 8 of those times, and I think the 9th was maybe 88 yards. Also has a nose for the goal line. The other being Nico Iamaleava. And if you look at the season stats, I think there were 6 picks. I think maybe one of those came in the last 5 games. So I felt like he is, as we pointed out, probably the least experienced quarterback in the SEC coming in. Came to football later than most of these guys, was a volleyball player. You guys probably know the story. But point I'm making here is you could see a little bit of game maturity coming into play late in the season that showed up in the stats. Now let's talk Ohio State for a minute. This is an elite defense. They've got Caleb Downs on the back end, an All-American caliber player who transferred from Alabama. Lathan, Ramson, who may be an All-American in his own right at safety. They get a pass rush. Ohio State, year in and year out, great on defense. No, for full disclosure, we watched Tennessee a lot more than we watched Ohio State this year. But we know some of the names, and you can't ignore the numbers here, Chase.
Yeah, the numbers show a lot. I mean, it's 2 really good defenses here, but Ohio State leads the nation in scoring defense and total defense. These guys are for real. And again, like, we're talking about 2 different leagues here. I think what they're going to see in Tennessee's offense may be the best they've seen all season, but still, this Ohio State defense has put up really good numbers this year, and they've stopped some good offenses. And I think of the Oregon game. They didn't stop them, but they slowed them down, not enough to win the game, but I thought they did a good job. So, look, Ohio State, very good defensively. Again, they lead in scoring defense and total defense. They're big. And so that's going to be a challenge for Tennessee offensively to, I feel like, have to be creative and against, again, a defense that is really good in Ohio State.
All right, before we flip sides of the matchup, reminder, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC. Head to BetOnline today. Don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE. That is BLEAV for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. You can bet on this game, many aspects of this game, and much more. Remember, BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, the stats on the other side of the matchup. We'll start with Tennessee's defense and then go to Ohio State's offense for each of these. Scoring 13.9 versus 36.5. Per rushing play, 3.5 flat to 5.4. Passing plays, 5.2 to 8.4. Sack percentage, 7.7% to just 3.4% sack rate. That is elite. That's like LSU-like kind of numbers there. Turnover percentage, 2.1 to 1.7. Tennessee's defense was outstanding in its own right. James Pierce Jr. probably didn't have quite the year that people wanted him to have, but still probably going to be a first rounder if the draft were held today. They've got depth up front. I think secondary was at times the question with Tennessee, but Jermod McCoy made some big plays for them at times and gave them a steady presence at one corner. Ohio State, a lot of names we know here. You got Will Howard, of course, the Kansas State transfer. You got Quinshon Judkins, who was a star at Ole Miss before transferring. You got a bevy of really, really good receivers. When you watch this side of the matchup, what stands out to you here?
Yeah, well, Will Howard's a great quarterback, and you mentioned he's got a dangerous group of receivers led by Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. Those guys are very good. Another thing about Ohio State, offensively, they don't turn the ball over. They do a great job protecting the ball, and you heard those numbers. And then the run game is led by Quinshon Judkins, who coming into this game has 8 touchdowns on the season, behind 805 yards on 147 carries. So he averages about 5.5 yards per carry. And then they've got another running back in TreVeyon Henderson, who averages about 7 yards per carry. He has 751 yards on the year on 108 carries and 6 touchdowns. Will Howard can run the football as well. He's ran it in 7 times for touchdowns. So I feel like what Ohio State does well offensively, they utilize these receivers to get ahead, and then they just pound you with this run game. And it's been successful this year. Again, Quinshon Judkins, we knew what kind of back he was at Ole Miss, and I feel like he's just picked right up where he left off there at Ohio State. But I've been impressed with what they can do offensively. Again, they can hit you. Will Howard can hit you with these receivers, and then they just run the football at you.
One thing we didn't mention, Seth McLaughlin, Ohio State's potential All-American center, out with an Achilles injury. Tennessee, pretty beefy up front and deep. You got Amari Norman. You got, I think Elijah Simmons might be hurt, but they've got several guys that they can rotate. Norman Lott, those kind of guys. That might be something to watch here too, because they had him for most of the year.
Right, that is a big loss for them, and they need some big guys up front to come ready to play, because look, and we can talk about this Tennessee defense, because the pass rush has been tremendous. The Tennessee defense has not allowed people to do much of anything. Other teams, they've only given up like 19 points. No team has scored over 19 points on them except for Georgia, and points by touchdowns. And so, I mean, this Tennessee defense is so good. I think it's a really interesting matchup, because Ohio State, again, is really good offensively. They have a great defense as well, but I don't think that Ohio State has seen what they're going to see with this Tennessee defense, the pressure that Will Howard is going to be under during this game.
All right, let's get to picks and why. I will start with you.
Yeah, look, it's 8-9 matchup. Ohio State's favored. It's going to be in Columbus. To me, though, Ohio State has again not seen what they're going to see in this Tennessee defense. I'm going to go with an upset in round one. I'm going to take Tennessee going up to Columbus and winning this game because I feel like they're going to put a lot of pressure on Will Howard. I think Dylan Sampson can get loose on this defense. I don't know if they've seen a run game like we're going to see, and Nico's been playing better. So look, I'm going to take the Vols to go up to Columbus and get an upset in round one.
Yeah, you know me. I'm pretty conservative with my picks. Ohio State would be about a 4.5-point favorite on a neutral field. It's not a neutral field. Now, I wonder, could that hurt Ohio State? You got a coach in Ryan Day that is in just under a ton of fire after losing to Michigan. I don't know if that indicates Ohio State's not as good as we think or as perceived, or if they just got a Michigan problem. Sometimes you just can't beat a team. I'm going to very reluctantly go Ohio State because of the home field level of confidence very low. I think this is a fun game. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'll take the safe out here. We'll hedge our bets, and one of us is going to be right. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be here to talk about it afterwards. Best way to see that, hit the subscribe button and enable your notifications. We do SEC football, basketball, baseball content year-round. Anyway, for Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16 presented by BetOnline.